everyone, and welcome back to another editing session at Tiff Tiff Studio. Today I'm going to be showing you a quick and easy way to retouch hands, particularly in relation to product photography. The image you're currently seeing was lit with natural light and has gone through very basic edits in Lightroom. So the very first thing to do is create a copy of the background layer. Okay, now bear with me for the next few steps and trust the process because it's going to look like I'm applying arbitrary adjustments that make the image look worse instead of better. Working from layer 1, we're going to press Command-I on your keyboard to invert the image. Yes, I know this looks like a horrifying X-ray, but we're going to make things look even worse soon. Let's go to the Blending Modes menu and select Vivid Light. And then we're going to head to the Filter menu and select Other from the drop-down menu, and then clicking on High Pass. That's going to open up a new small window as well as a preview of a blurred version of the image. What High Pass does is it essentially finds all of the edges of objects in your image. You can adjust the radius toggle to your liking depending on how complex your image is. The ideal radius number will allow you to see a thin white outline of all the objects in your high pass preview window. I think 24 is a good amount for this image, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now we're going back to the filter menu up top, and this time selecting Blur, then Gaussian Blur. This will create a new window to pop up. This is where you'll check to see if you like how soft and blurred the effect looks on your image, so I'm going to zoom in for a closer look. The idea is that you want the amount of blurriness to evenly blend the skin tones, but still show a bit of the skin texture. This is to give you an idea of what the skin and hands look like once you've done the retouching. So I'm going to play around with the radius toggle a bit and see what looks best. I also chose this specific image for this tutorial because it shows the back of one hand and the palm of the other. If you want to get down into details, these should have different approaches to retouching, but because it's a quick, easy method, I'll show you a way to cheat retouching later on. I'm just making a few more adjustments to the Gaussian blur toggle. Sometimes the amount of blurring looks good on one area, but not on the rest. For this example, I like how the blur looks for the hands, but I didn't like how it made the logo disappear. Next, let's create a mask for layer 1. Click on the mask and press Command-I on the keyboard to inverse the mask. And then you might be thinking, we did all those steps, and now we're back at the exact same image we started off with. That's true, but we haven't gotten to the retouching yet. That was just the prep work. The real retouching begins now. We'll go over to the toolbar on the left and select the paintbrush tool. Then we're going to opacity and lowering the percentage. I usually like to do this because I think it's easier to build up the amount of blurring and evening out you want for the image. Also, different areas require different amounts of the blur effect, so lowering the opacity gives you more nuance and control. I'm not sure how strong the effect will look, so for now let's start with a little less than 50%. And then what you're going to do is start brushing in the areas that you want retouched. The more times you go over an area, the more blurred it will look. So that being said, I usually have my opacity at a higher percentage for areas with fewer wrinkles and details such as arms and wrists. And then for areas with more details or more wrinkles that should stay, such as the knuckles, I'll go for a much lower opacity, like 20% or less. And the reason we're using a mask is so that in case an area becomes too retouched, we can always go back and brush back in the original. So I'm going to be doing this to the entirety of the hands. I will not be brushing in the products or the nails. This is essentially for the skin only. You could probably do the same technique for faces, But personally, if it's going to be a portrait or a beauty shot, I think there are more precise and detailed methods of retouching that will look more realistic. This is more of a quick fix that works well for product photography since the focus isn't solely on the hands. Just made another copy of the original background layer because I want to do detailed retouching in specific areas before masking in this effect. I'm using a combination of the patch tool, paintbrush, and clone stamp to retouch the nails. I just want to make sure the color is even in some areas, no awkward patches of highlights or shadows. Also, sometimes manicures can chip or have some bubbling textures, so we want to fix that as well. And then I also want to smooth out the areas around the cuticles too. No bits of skin hanging off or anything. Staying on the same background copy layer, I'm going to retouch some details on the palm. The palm usually has more wrinkles that are also deeper than the back of the hand. This is natural. We don't want the back and palm to look equally flawless after retouching. Depending on the pose, though, I do want to eliminate the amount of wrinkles a little bit in this case. I'm mostly using the healing brush and paintbrush for this. And then switching back to the layer 1 mask, we're going to brush in the blur on the right hand in the same way. Let's do some wrist retouching. Again, no need to get rid of major wrinkles or ligaments, but sometimes veins show up in this area and we do want to get rid of that. Back to the masked layer and let's brush the blur onto the arms. Here, it's not so detailed, so for the sake of time too, I'm using a much bigger brush size. Now let's create a new group with all of the adjustment layers so you can see what a difference that's made. So this is the original image, and here's the retouched one. Okay, seeing that difference makes the effect look like a bad TikTok filter, so what I'm going to do is lower the opacity of this layer so it's not so intense. This is completely arbitrary and not a necessary part if you feel like you like how the effect looks as is. And there you have it. This isn't meant to be a comprehensive or proper way to retouch hands or skin. It's more of a quick and easy way to get a simple retouched effect on your images. This particular image is a pretty minimal setup, but honestly, there can be so many other elements and products in the same image that need heavy-duty retouching, compositing, and other editing done. So when the hands play a minor role in the image, I prefer to do a faster, easier editing method on them. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give this video a thumbs up so there's a greater chance YouTube will push this out to others who could use these tips. And if you also want to support my channel and give me the motivation to create more videos like this, please subscribe.